Certain band of those frequencies get caught in the ionosphere and bounce back to the planet, creating this heartbeat of the Earth. If you've been having trouble sleeping lately, or it feels like your anxiety's through the roof, or maybe some of your dreams have been going wild and you don't really have an explanation for it, it might be from some of these solar flares affecting the frequency of the planet, and that might be directly affecting your frequency. It might sound kind of crazy, but I can explain exactly how that happens. In the early 1950s, a professor named Winifred Otto Schumann was trying to get his students to understand how a sphere within a sphere can create an electrical current. He asked them to calculate the electrical tension between the Earth and the ionosphere. Not knowing the answer to this, he went through the calculations himself to come out with a base frequency of about 7 to 8 hertz. It was published in a small journal, but got almost no recognition besides that. About 30 years before that, the German scientist Hans Berger made the first EEG meter, and that's an electroencephalogram which is able to measure the frequency of human brainwaves. He learned that the base frequency for human brainwaves in their moderate state is about 7 to 8 hertz, and they were going to name this state of brainwaves after him, but he elected for an alphabetical system. So these waves are known as alpha waves. We're lucky because otherwise they probably would have been known as Berger waves. Hans Berger discovered Schumann's findings in the journal, and when he realized that they were so close to the base state of human waves, he asked Schumann to look into it farther. Schumann refined his calculations with a student and came up with the frequency of exactly 7.83 hertz as the base frequency for the planet Earth. So this is the Earth's pulse, also known as the heartbeat of the Earth. And there seems to be a strong correlation between that and the alpha state of the human brainwaves. So the Schumann resonance is part of the geomagnetic field of the planet Earth. Just like if you've ever experimented with the little iron filings in a magnet in school, you can see the field takes on a toroidal shape. The Earth's geomagnetic field is in this same shape. A certain band of those frequencies get caught in the ionosphere and bounce back to the planet, creating this heartbeat of the Earth, or what's known as the Schumann Resonance. And these overall electrical frequencies are caused from molten metals inside of the Earth and the electrical activity that goes on in the atmosphere with lightning. It's also affected by solar flares and solar storms, because these are strong blasts of electromagnetic waves. So when we get a strong solar storm that causes a spike in these frequencies, that could potentially have an effect on human brainwaves. In the early 1960s, Rutger Weaver conducted underground experiments in a bunker at the Max Planck Institute. He brought students underground to study how their circadian rhythms would be affected from this type of environment. He made a lot of interesting discoveries to show how the human circadian rhythm follows the diurnal pattern of the Earth. And it makes sense how our biological systems would be tuned in to this pattern of the Earth, because we were created under this system and within this system. We've been evolving with it for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, the studies on circadian rhythms are fascinating, and that could be a video for another day. But the point here tonight is that he noticed his students were experiencing all types of adverse side effects. They were having headaches, their gut biome seemed to be messed up, so they were having stomach problems, their sleeping patterns started to get messed up, they had nightmares that were keeping them up at night, their melatonin processes seemed to be thrown off, and he was wondering exactly what could be affecting them at such a level. So with his awareness of the Schumann resonance, what he did was he secretly introduced a pulse generator into this bunker in this environment without his students even knowing it, and it started to reverse those side effects that they were having. So this Schumann resonance, this frequency that's happening in the atmosphere, is having a direct effect on our mental and our physical states. Now, the Schumann resonance does range from about 7 hertz to about 40 hertz, and a lot of these do overlap with human brain waves. Of course, the frequencies of the brain and the frequencies of the Earth are not static. They fluctuate and they vary, but they always return back to that base frequency of about 7.83 hertz. Now, when we experience spikes in this frequency from solar flares and solar storms and coronal mass ejections, that could potentially affect our dreams and our mental state. So if you've been having trouble sleeping, if you've been having strange dreams that keep you up at night, if you seem to have trouble with your gut biome or your stomach, or even if you seem to have some sort of increased anxiety that you can't explain, look into the charts for your area and see if you might have some of these spikes going on around you. There's a geologist named Stephen Burns that covers this stuff in great detail and in real time, who also has a YouTube channel. I would definitely recommend him, and I'll plug his channel in the comments section. Roland McGrady, head of research at the HeartMath Institute, covers these things in great detail too. The HeartMath Institute conducts a lot of studies on the waves of the human heart, because the human heart emits waves just like the human brain, and they've linked changes in emotional states with changes in the frequency of the heart. When we take a picture of the human aura with Kirlian photography, we're seeing the light that's emitted from the ionized particles around the body. And when we're seeing the aurora borealis, we're also seeing the ionized particles in the atmosphere as they collide or recombine with other particles. So although they're kind of different in their function, there is a strong similarity between the human aura and the geomagnetic field of the Earth. Now we know that birds and other animals are in tune with these geomagnetic lines. And for the last 150 years, humans have been tampering with the electromagnetic frequencies around the planet, potentially throwing off some of these natural rhythms in these animals. And it may also be throwing off the natural rhythms of our bodies and our brains. There's been a lot of fear surrounding EM waves in the human brain, and this is why a lot of people think that this 5G might be linked to cancer and things like that. I know a lot of these things can be complicated and a lot of these studies can be skewed in either direction, but I think it's important to remember the common moniker I've been hearing a lot on the internet lately. When you go to study a peer-reviewed article, the first thing you should do is flip to the back and see who funded it. And that should give you a good idea of what the outcomes of that study are going to be. It's pretty easy to understand that when you ask a company who has already invested millions or potentially billions of dollars into some sort of product or infrastructure, they're most likely going to find less adverse side effects than an independent study would. So when you get a person or an organization or a group that does have the funding to put in these studies on these things, a lot of times you get different results than the original company. A lot of studies show that cell phone towers and things like that could be messing with the natural structure for the birds and the bees, which is a big deal now, and other biological organisms. I just think this is something to be aware of, and we shouldn't sensationalize it too much, but I do think we need to spread awareness. Now, when two frequencies are vibrating at the same rate, they cause constructive interference. This is when two waves that meet at their peak come together and cause a bigger wave. But when this continues, it causes what's known as resonant coupling, and this increases the amplitude of the frequency. As seemingly insignificant individuals, we might think that our frequency can't possibly have an effect on the Schumann resonance. But I think collectively, all humans combined, if we could form some sort of resonant coupling, we might be able to have a direct effect on the Schumann resonance, and this could create some sort of feedback. So that's why I think it's important as humans to focus on our breath patterns and our rhythms overall in life, and make sure we try to keep our mental state tuned to a natural frequency. If humans can collectively tune into the Schumann resonance, maybe we can create a global geomagnetic symphony with the Earth. This video is going to be another small addition to my Nature of Reality series, so I'm going to add this to that playlist, and I would highly recommend anyone who made it this far in the video go back and check out some of those. I will put them on the screen at the end of this, and I'll also put some links in the description. I go live every week to talk about dream psychology, ancient symbolism, quantum mechanics, and all things that have to do with the fundamental nature of reality. So if you're interested in anything like that, definitely subscribe. And these dream sessions are just a way for me to continue the conversation. Peace and love, people. Thank you.